Welcome to the Candace's Pack Dog Rescue Show with your host, JP Mendoza.
Thank you very much, Taniya. Real quick, I wanted to say thank you to Art of the Mutt for sending me your kind words on Instagram. Art of the Mutt said, going through your podcast on Spotify, thank you so much for the energy you're providing. Great work, inspirational stuff. Art of the Mutt, I'm really humbled, not only because you're listening to the show, but we've never met, so that means to me that word is traveling pretty quickly about my show, and it's not just my friends and family that are listening. So thank you so much, Art of the Mutt, for your kind words. Please keep listening and tell all your friends. Also, Etsu and me says on Instagram, going through the podcast and really enjoying your approach and how you have genuine conversations. This is a really, really cool compliment to me. I've always enjoyed having conversations, and I just don't know any other way to do it. So I wanted to be authentic on the show and feature people that I think are interesting. So I'm really glad to hear that other people are agreeing and are listening. And thank you again, Etsu and me. Please tell all your friends to listen to the show. And speaking of friends, thank you to my friend, Las Vegas-based trainer at Aubrey Likes the Dogs. She posted a story this week that says, during the week, I take one of my days off for myself and the other I give to Lando, her dog, and furthering my learning by catching up on all the amazing educational training podcasts and posts out in the world. We walk and work and I listen. It's pretty rad. That is such a beautiful compliment. I had to read it on air. Thank you, Aubrey. You are a delight. And my invitation still stands, by the way. Aubrey is doing amazing things with senior dogs. It's a topic that I have yet to discuss on the show. So I hope to have Aubrey on really soon. And by the way, in her story, she mentions my show along with Honest to Dog podcast, Beyond the Dog podcast, the Canine Exchange, and one of my favorites, along with Honest to Dog podcast, is the Vermont Dog Trainer Show. I'm truly humbled to even be mentioned in the same sentence as those guys. So thank you very much, Aubrey. You are wonderful. And if you're out there listening to the show, please let me know what you think. Send me a DM on Instagram at Candace's Pack Dog Rescue, or you can send me an email, cpackdogrescue@gmail.com. This week's interview is with a dog trainer that I met at the Lucas Agnew workshop last year. I enjoy our conversations because she's really passionate about what she believes in, and I'm excited to share this one with you. She's based out of Tacoma, Washington. Please welcome Kristina Barsalona. Kristina Barsalona, dog trainer from Tacoma, Washington. How are you doing today, Kristina?
I am enjoying the rain so much today.
There's a lot of enjoying the rain in Washington, isn't there? I wouldn't know. I don't live there. I've only heard.
Oh, well, you really don't understand unless you experience it.
Yeah,
so
I hear that a lot from people who live in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Kristina, I have to tell you right off the bat, this was I'm excited for this, and this is a super fun one for me because I feel very challenged to do this interview. And the reason why this interview is a bit of a challenge for me is because, like we were talking about off air, you're not a very flashy trainer.
No. You
don't boast about your accomplishments. You don't even have a website.
No.
So my pre-interview prep was rather limited. So I said, okay, all right, I see what she's doing here. So I prepared my notes, and I think I have a pretty good map to where I want to go here. So but first things first, I like to try to come up with something that I have in common with whoever I'm speaking with.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is a challenge, but a light bulb kind of went off. So you live in Washington. And you
Correct.
said about 30 minutes south of Seattle?
Yes.
Are you a Seattle Mariners fan?
They hurt my heart pretty consistently.
Yeah.
We all got excited way
Yes.
back in the day when
Wait,
Ichiro,
so hold on, Christina. Did you get excited in 97 or was it 98? Which playoff fails were you most heartbroken about? Because I'm asking because I was a huge Seattle Mariners fan growing up. Yes, they were my favorite team because my favorite player still to this day of all time is Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was the only weirdo in a sea of Yankee fans that would wear the Seattle Mariners hats and the Ken Griffey Jr. jerseys. And yeah, I could pretty much name the starting lineup for the 97, 98 Mariners. So yeah, so tell me about that.
Well,
that's something
I was in high school then.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal when they actually built a baseball stadium in Seattle. That was huge. Yes. That was such a big deal because, as you know, sports wise, Seattle has struggled a bit. So, and we had the Kingdome, and then
Right.
I don't even know where they played prior to Safeco. I don't even know. But when they got that new stadium, Safeco, it was so major. And just, it was a huge part of the community to be able to go to a baseball field and actually have a stadium that was legit. So I do like to go to baseball games.
Nice.
Now.
I heard an old joke. I don't know if you've heard this where you are growing up, but I heard a joke from a baseball old timer that back in the 70s, I believe it was, when the Mariners became an expansion team, if you were to leave 2 tickets on the roof of your car and then go away, by the time you came back, there would be 4. Because they were that bad and no one wanted to go see them play. But anyways, it's the Seattle Mariners, that team, or at least the team from the 90s, has a special place in my heart because it was just it really reminded me of growing up as a baseball fan and then just the heartbreak. And then you'll appreciate this. I went from being
Washington.
Yeah, and then I went from being a Mariners fan to a Mets fan, which is just the same heartbreak. So I couldn't get any break. Now I don't watch baseball. So there you go. So
yeah, I still have a rookie card for Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh wow, really? Wow.
My dad. Okay, he has it, but whatever.
Okay, yeah. You'll inherit it.
My dad is such a big baseball fan.
That's
Huge.
awesome. Mm-hmm. So Christina, speaking of your dad, we were also talking off air, and you were talking about how you're much more of a family person than you are a dog trainer that likes to just do it for, I guess, I don't know if glamour is the right word, but
yeah,
we all know there's some people on social media that really want all the likes and all the clicks and the views and things like that. But you really strike me as somebody who is really just in it for the dogs.
Oh yeah, but more than the dogs, I'll be honest with you. I was working corporate. So I didn't start off going, oh, I'm gonna, train dogs. Making that adjustment is so big. And I did it, but it mainly happened because I was in a really, really tough time in my life. And somehow I acquired 2 pit bulls. Okay. And I am a very particular person. I was like, I'm not going to be that person, that woman walking down the street with a pit bull pulling her saying, oh, he's so nice. No. Okay. That's not going to be me. I'm going to figure this out. I do my research and I'm not going to have dogs that behave a certain way. And that was it. And so that's how it started.
So it was because of your 2 pit bulls that got you into looking into dog behavior and then training, or you wanted to be a trainer for your dogs and then you decided to do it professionally?
I never just woke up and said I want to be a trainer. That never happened. I had these dogs. I worked them constantly. They kept me from going to a very dark place. I walked them all the time. I watched every episode of Cesar. I applied what I could, and I could see that it worked. And I could see that my dogs behaved better over time because I was so consistent about it. So when I realized that my dogs did absolutely better than the average person on the street, and my dogs are way more challenging. They were litter mates, by the way. So that was stupid, but whatever. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm walking these 2 litter mates all over and, trying to figure things out. I find myself at my desk at work fantasizing about dog behavior. Like, how am I going to fix this? What can I do about this? And like, it was such a positive way for me to refocus my life at that time. So I just dove into it. And then, I'm such a researcher that I'm like, I think I might want to do this, and I didn't fit in the corporate arena at all because one thing about me concerning what you said about social media and not caring about the likes and stuff, I'm just too real. I'm not going to give people everything they want to hear. I'm going to give them what is. And that's how I was in corporate. And everybody was all smiley and fake. And it just wasn't for me,
I have a corporate background too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. In fact, I believe everyone who used to work in corporate who might be listening to this probably knows exactly what you're talking about, because it is it's a very weird environment going to an office and having to like act a certain way or having to kind of kiss up to management or, weird dynamics with human resources, things like that. It's just, it can be a very toxic environment, right?
So toxic. And I was never going to be the one that they liked, because I was actually trying to do the right thing. That's who I was. And they don't want to hear that. They just want you to agree and joke and not be so serious all the time. But I was dealing with people's livelihoods, their lives. And, I had to make very serious decisions contractually for people's like medical procedures. It was serious.
Oh yeah.
And I took it seriously, and I'm glad that's over.
So so you mentioned that you were a big researcher. How did you decide where you were going to learn and who you were going to learn from? Like, how do you decide to make the next step and say, okay, I'm actually going to start paying to learn and to actually take this a little bit more seriously? Because I'm assuming you left the corporate world.
Oh yeah.
Decided, okay.
So that was an interesting transition, like having nightmares about like things you don't have to worry about in corporate, like dental insurance. I mean, it was a crazy transition for me, having worked at that company as long as I did. But I did it. I was like, you know what? Bye. And that was it. I then transitioned into a position at a positive reinforcement based training facility.
Oh, yay.
And I was like, yeah, so that was interesting. One good thing about it is I learned very important things about the business, like hygiene and disinfecting and properly cleaning crates and the business side of things. Because let me tell you, those positive reinforcement trainers, they get their money. Okay. They may not perform, but they get their money.
Of course.
So I learned a lot about the business and how they did things. And I was like, I will never do that, but I will absolutely do that, And I needed to learn dog language, but as you can imagine, that it's just all excitement, all of it.
Right.
So at that point, I didn't like it because I read a pamphlet, which was the training pamphlet, and they wanted me to apprentice and like become a positive reinforcement only trainer. But the trainers' dogs were a hot mess. And I was like, I don't know about this. One of them had serious resource guarding issues, and they were all excitement and all crazy. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to do this, So then I kept researching, and I appreciated what Cesar had taught because it worked on my dogs. And I felt that he was a representative for pit bulls. And so I kept researching, and that's how I got in touch with Colleen Steckloff, who owns LA Canines.
Yep, legend.
She's a straight up legend. She is like a Rottweiler in a tiny teenage body. She's so amazing. That one.
She's on my dream guest list.
Oh yeah.
I've never met her. I want to one day. I'm sure she's not that inaccessible. I'm sure it's just a matter of trying to find how to shadow with her or find out where she is to work with her. But she always, her name is always comes up in conversations of great people to learn from.
Oh, and so let me just say, like, she has been responsible for training some of the best behaviorists that are out there. And she's really low key and just like one of the most amazing behaviorists I've been around. And she'll just be like saying something so nonchalant, like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to eat today, doing some crazy leash stuff with the dog. And if you don't pay attention, you'll miss it because she's that good. Like, I mean, when I first started, I didn't understand all the nuances. And then later on, I would go back and think about it. And I was like, whoa, she did that. And she acted so chill about it. Like it was no big deal.
Imagine the level of mastery for you to be just thinking about something completely different, yet you're working with like a live animal that might be trying to like bite your hand off or something like that, you know, or you're trying to accomplish something with a dog, another life form. But I wonder what I'm going to make for dinner tonight.
But it's so second nature for her.
Yeah.
And she's so like, it's just in her. It's like a dancer. It's just in your body. You just know how to move. You don't think about it consciously anymore. That's how I feel she was. But she's so funny that she would just be talking about these random things, doing these crazy, amazing things with the dog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but yeah, so many people have trained with her. Some of the best. Did
you seek her to work with her individually, or did you take classes with her, or how did you end up hooking up with her?
So I sent an email. So originally I was really impressed with some of the videos Todd Langston had, and I hit him up and he was like, well, I don't do shadowing. So he sent me to Colleen, and I was like, oh man, I don't see as many videos of her and stuff. And I wonder how we'll mesh. But she did get back to me. Actually, her husband, Dave, who runs most of the business side of things, he got back to me and, just to kind of see who I was and what the purpose was for me to be shadowing with them. But I was so new. And so she did allow me to shadow, and it was before she had a facility. So we did a lot of traveling, and it was very cool. Like I remember to this day, some of the dogs that she worked with.
So it was for you, it was just a matter of flying to LA, staying for a couple days and working with her.
Yeah. I think the first time I did 4 days of shadowing. And a lot of people who work with dogs have a hard time traveling. I mean, I have 4 dogs, so I get it, personal dogs. And then I have all my client dogs too, but that's another reason I stay low key, because I want to travel. Sure. I want to keep doing workshops. I want to keep learning. I don't want to open a facility and have all these employees under me and be constantly terrorized by what could be going wrong, Right. I want it to work for me. So I keep things low key. I definitely work with dogs. I work with a variety of dogs. And then I have the ability to leave town, and I don't have that stress where I'm constantly texting and wondering what is happening with my business.
So one thing I admire a lot about you is how serious you are about learning how to work with dogs and just how to be how to be the best you can be at your craft. Because I'll tell you something that I was, I guess, kind of shocked by, right? So I had just met you at the Lucas Agnew workshop in October 2020. And I would say maybe a month later, maybe even a month and a half later, I go on Instagram and I see you were already at the next workshop at Cheri's, like the very next workshop. I was like, wow, that she didn't waste any time. She didn't waste any time. So I consider you like the ultimate workshop enthusiast. How many workshops have you been on?
Oh, goodness. So there was a 3-year period I didn't do any workshops. I kind of had I still worked with dogs, but I had too many things going on.
Sure.
And it kind of, my confidence took a dove because of some of the things I dealt with. But one trainer that I totally adore, he encouraged me to get back out there. And I'm like, I can't do it. I don't know. And he's like, go. So that's probably why you'll see me at more workshops, because workshops are definitely about me learning. I mean, at that Lucas Agnew that you and I went to, there were moments I wanted to stand up and clap. Little nuances with the e-collar with Brian.
Yep.
I mean, literally simple things that when I got home and I implemented those things that I was in all those Facebook groups about training and no one talked about this stuff.
Right.
It was that amazing. So I got really happy about that. And I'm like, I need to keep going down this road. And it wasn't just about learning. It was about dealing with my social anxiety too. Because I have a social anxiety and I'm working on myself as I'm learning. So it's a win-win situation, but I've done a lot. I've done TCW. I did a really cool e-collar with Colleen. I've done various shadows. I've shadowed Angela Aiden. I've shadowed Robert Villanita. I mean, there's still so many people I want to see how they work. But that's definitely part of what I want to keep doing.
You and I have that in common on like a really big scale, because I've always been a person where if I'm interested in something, I don't only want to learn from whoever is considered the best. I also want to learn from, who learned from that guy and how did they make it different? Who else is doing the same thing, but why is the way this person doing it different from that person, and why is it working for this person? So it's like learning from as many people as you can, and then taking what works for you and what you're comfortable with, and then making it your own. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think I think that's really the best way, and it really takes, I think, big people to admit that they don't know everything, and not to just maybe take 1 or 2 classes and be like, okay, I got this. And then if something's not working, now they're blaming all other factors, like, oh, well, that person must be doing it wrong, or the client is wrong, or something's genetically wrong with the dog, or all kinds of excuses, when really maybe you just don't know all the ways there are to do what it is you're trying to accomplish with a dog, right? Because there's so many factors that can go wrong, or when it comes to dog training. So yeah, it was really cool being at the workshop, and I remember being next to you for some of those aha moments. In particular, when we were watching Jax, and if you remember Jax,
Cheri
and
her super core strength.
Yes. And I just interviewed Annie, Jax's owner, and we were talking about it, and I mentioned the picture of Cheri holding Jax by the leash because Jax was just trying to come after her. And I remember the moment where Jax runs to the place board, and it just clicked like that, where I realized, and I think we both looked at each other, we were sitting next to each other, and we were like, oh my God, it's not just a place board. It's not just a place that you're telling a dog to go somewhere physically. This dog sees this place board as its like safety haven or safe space. And that's when I started to really understand the value behind place training. I thought place training was just an obedience trick, really. Like, okay,
Yeah.
go over there, dog, and just stay there until I tell you. But no, it's a lot more than that. And until you can see those live moments, I think it's hard to kind of explain to somebody in words, without somebody actually witnessing it live. Because it's one thing to watch, right, like Dog Whisperer episodes and be like, oh, that's great, but they could have edited that to make it look like this and that. But when you're right there watching it live, it's like a whole nother level, right?
Absolutely. And I've always looked at place as a great option for impulse control, especially when you have very intelligent dogs that, you could hike them 1,000,000 miles and they would never get tired. So the next thing you have to do is work on slowing the mind down, place board, impulse control, wait. And it's exhausting for the dog because, you know how that goes. So that's how I kind of viewed it. But what I saw Cheri do in that moment absolutely impacted me. I saw a very fearful dog who had fear aggression, right? And I saw this dog, I saw her taking the dog to the place. So I'm like, okay, let me see. This is a dog that wants to bite her when she gets close to it. So what is the purpose? What is the deeper intention and purpose to this moment? And over the course of 2 days, you see that dog literally melt on the place board. And I think I had an emotional response to that when I saw that moment that you discussed earlier, where there was a shift in that dog and the dog felt safe. The dog literally felt safe. And then you think about that and how she teaches here to the side, and it just translates that safety to your side. Everything made complete sense. That's why I love Cheri. Like, logically speaking, it has to make sense to me. And I mean, it was an object lesson I'll never forget. So,
yes. Yeah. I think Cheri is one of the greatest of all times. She is awesome. I mean, it's hard to explain to somebody who wasn't there to see it, because it's not like Cheri had her own TV show where you can be like, no, this lady's really great. Look, watch this video, and then plug her in on YouTube. I mean, I'm sure she has some tutorials or how-to videos, but it's so different when you actually see a live dog that has the problem right in front of you, and then you're seeing the dog change over the course of 3 days.
Yes.
It's a really awesome thing to watch. So for anybody listening, workshops are the way to go if you really want to learn, because there's a lot to learn. Christina, I want to read to you a quote, because you touched on this a little bit. You touched on this a little bit when you were talking about your background. You were talking about how, and I want to. This is leading up to a compliment, so don't worry.
Oh,
you were talking about how you got your pit bulls, and you were not in not such a great emotional space.
yes.
And how many times have we heard where the reason why somebody is having problems with their dogs is because they're using their dog as like an emotional dumpster, right?
Yes,
We're just placing all of our own selfishly placing all of our own needs and wants and emotions onto this poor dog, and this dog is acting out in the only ways it knows how to act out, because we're not paying attention to what we're doing. And the quote here is, dogs are not emotional dumpsters. When we give them what they need, we indirectly give back to ourselves. Kristina Barsalona.
That's right.
You posted that on your Instagram. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about this topic. I'm passionate about it because I like to work with women, and I like to work with women who have children, have emotional challenges, are entering a divorce, are grieving, are, making goals professionally. I like to work with women. I don't care what the issue is, right? I'm going to work with that woman. And that's hard for a lot of trainers. A lot of male trainers can't do this. They get uncomfortable. I'm sorry. It is a fact. It's a controversial thing for me to say. There are some male trainers who are amazing with women. I know some of those, but from my experience, and this is my perspective, a lot of men have challenges dealing with women with emotional issues because they don't always know how to address them or how to help them have a better relationship with the dog. But as a woman who has children, a woman who has experienced difficult relationship issues, a woman who has, been through, severe childhood trauma that I'm healing from, all of that. And I have reached a great place with my dogs. I can help women. That's what I want to do. And it is a very common thing for women when they go through certain things to emotionally dump on the dog. I did it. I didn't even know I was doing it. But that dog became my world because for real, it was getting me up. I wasn't falling apart. I was structured because my dog needed it. And it became therapeutic for me to give my dog what he needed. I didn't realize that him sleeping in the bed while I'm crying over something is not healthy, that he's absorbing all of that. So I was doing a lot of the right things, right? I was creating structure, I was walking, I was socializing, I was doing all of those things, but the emotional dumping will affect your animal. And what is emotional dumping? Well, when you're dealing with difficult emotions, you have to make space away from your dog. If you need to cry, if you're severely angry, if you are dealing with anything intense, which obviously you have to have some awareness, right? Right. And some people have so much trauma, they don't even have awareness. So they'd have to work on that first. The dog's absorbing all of that. I mean, they are literally absorbing everything you're putting out. So when you learn this, that is not the way to be with your dog, then you make the changes. All of a sudden you're helping yourself. Okay, so I don't want to sit there and pet my dog while I feel like this, right? Because that's taking from the dog. That's selfish. Right. But I can go release some of this emotion or meditate, and then we can do a nice long walk. But when you get outside to do the walk, your dog isn't the only one impacted in a positive way. You are. So you're literally changing your patterns. I mean, when I grew up as a child, my mom was so emotionally distraught. She spent her whole life in the bed. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be outside. I'm going to be active. But sometimes if I get sad, that's my, I just want to go, hide somewhere. But I can't do that. I am responsible for these animals. I am responsible for keeping myself as balanced as possible. And so I work with a naturopath. I do somatic therapies. I do all kinds of things to keep me level. And I'm going to tell you, all of the efforts I've done, my dogs have changed so much. So when you take the time to heal that stuff inside of you away from your dogs, right? So if I have an appointment for somatic therapy, body work, EMDR, whatever, I actually will take that day off or have a super slow day, right? I, take some preparation. I do that and I keep my dogs completely separate from me while I'm cycling through something. And so they have actually, I've seen my walks enhance, my dogs trust me more. I don't have reactivity. I mean, there is a definite connection between our healing and our dog's well-being. So
other than getting to know you better, this is exactly why I was excited to have you on the show, because I think there are so many people, and I'm not going to say just women. I think there are so many people, especially right now, who need to hear what you just said. And they don't realize that they might be having a negative impact on their dog because they're going through things. And we're humans. We're going to go through things, right? So I remember when we were at the workshop, I didn't know you at all, but we all went out as a group and we started talking, and you were very passionate about what you were talking about. And it was some pretty private stuff. And I remember thinking, wow, this woman is awesome, because the level of trust that she has in me, and we haven't really known each other that long, and I can tell that you were speaking from the heart and with a lot of passion. So I knew you would be the right person to have on the show to talk about this, because I really do think people need to hear it, especially during the tough times that are going on right now. Mm-hmm. And as we both know, dog adoptions, shelter adoptions, they're on the rise because people are home. People want a dog to just dump all their emotional baggage on. And I'm hoping some of those people are going to be listening to this show and they're going to think, oh man, am I doing that? Because I don't want to do that. Maybe that's the reason why I'm having all these problems with my dog. Because then maybe that will prevent them from giving up their dog. You know what I mean? So it's all about prevention. You mentioned that you like to work with women, and I wanted to share with you something which you probably aren't going to be very surprised by. But being new into this industry, the dog training world and world of rescue and pretty much everything dogs, you know, I'm meeting people for the first time and I have a lot of conversations for the first time. And one unfortunate pattern that I noticed is that a lot of times when I'm talking to a woman, they have almost the same story or some version of a story of unfair treatment.
Oh, yeah.
While trying to learn or getting started in the business or at a workshop or whatever, or a male trainer not wanting to share more information because they're a woman. I think this is very, very unfortunate. And I was hoping you would touch a little bit on some of the ways that you feel women are being treated unfairly and what you think is the best way. So in other words, if there's a woman out there, and I know a couple that are trying to get into the dog training business, but they may be a little bit intimidated or they may be feeling some things that you went through. Mm-hmm. Do you have any words of advice, anything you want to share just to maybe help someone out, another woman out that might be listening to this?
Yes. So for me, it was very eye-opening. I totally fell for this whole idea that if your dogs are balanced and you're good with animals, then you are a moral person with high values who respect women. So we know that the vast majority of clients who come typically for their dogs are women, right?
Yes.
But yes, it's disturbing to me that so many people promote that if they're good with dogs, they're a moral person. A lot of men do this, or they're such a great guy or whatever. It's like, that's completely separate. Don't get caught up in that gimmick. If you're good with dogs, you're good with dogs. Okay. But that does not mean that you're a perfectly moral, balanced person. So let's just address that point blank. Another thing that I would say is, get references for who you work with. Talk to other women about who they had good experiences with, because there are some wonderful male trainers who are great with women. I just find that there aren't as many of them. I also find that a lot of these male trainers, not all of them again, who are really good with like dominant aggression, things like that. They're very confident. There are women like this too, where they can just take a dominant, aggressive dog and work them right there and be fine, right? You have to have a certain way of being to work with an animal like that. Some of those same trainers have a hard time with patients working with an anxious dog, working with fear, those issues, fear and anxiety in a dog takes so much more patience. And those are the ones I typically work with. Because you're not going to get 100% right away. It's going to take a lot of, small incremental steps, depending on how severe the issue is. So the point of me saying this is that just because you're not working dominant, aggressive dogs does not mean there is not a place for you in this industry. And a lot of those same trainers will make you feel like there's something wrong with you because you can't get to that point, but they're not expressing how it's way harder for them to bring their energy down to work with a very sensitive dog, right?
Yes.
So we all have our natural ways of being, and we can help certain dogs based on who we are. But it doesn't make anyone better than the other just because you're better at doing this. We all have to work on some part of ourselves, right? So me, I'm going to work harder on having a more strong energy, right? Whereas somebody who works with a dominant aggressive cases, they're going to work harder on bringing the energy down. So don't feel bad if you're not jumping in working with dominant aggressive dogs, right? You might be able to pick up the leash for a fear aggressive dog, depending on the issue, and work it better than somebody with overly powerful energy, you know?
Yep. As a male owner of a extremely sensitive back of the pack female dog, I can tell you 1000% what you're saying is right. I had to learn from my dog Candace how to recognize the sensitivity that she has. I never considered myself an intense person, but that didn't matter. My intensity level at baseline was too high for her.
Oh, wow.
So I had to figure out how to give her direction without scaring her and getting her to trust me without, obviously being afraid of me. So it was learning about energy that it made sense to me. And it's not an overnight thing to learn. It's one of those things where you really have to figure out, okay, what am I trying to get through to this dog? How do I do it? How do I communicate? Because just standing up too fast might be too intense for her. So it's one of those things that people, I think, don't realize. It's all about education, right? So you're right. Somebody could be really good at handling the most aggressive, human aggressive, dog aggressive cases, but what are you going to do about my dog that just wants to run under the table everywhere she goes? Right. Right. It doesn't mean that
we all have to. I mean, obviously, all of us should be working on something, right? We're going to take more cases that we're naturally good at, but why not keep growing?
Right. Right.
And the only way to keep growing, and we both know this, is you have to work on yourself personally. I mean, this isn't about logic. Oh, you hold the leash this way and do this and do that. Well, there's some of that.
Yep.
But it comes from within. So we're enhancing ourselves when we enhance our craft.
Absolutely. And you posted on Instagram about bad energy.
Oh, yeah.
You said if you're a male trainer and you're working with women and you label them bad energy, the real bad energy is you. So I think you just provided a really, really well explained explanation for that post. So that's really awesome. Also, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was you also posted about the importance of patience.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I wanted to share with you a story. So I was reading a book. I don't know, maybe you've read it. It's called The Power of Patience by M.J. Ryan. Have you read the book?
I've heard of that book. Yeah.
Okay. In the book, for people who aren't familiar with it, she talks about working out your patience muscle, which I like that as a metaphor. But she also talks about a story about when she was writing the book, how she was like in line at like a FedEx Kinko's or something, and she had to get like copies made or something like that. And there was a super long line, and somebody at the register was like paying in like pennies or something like that, taking forever. And she just got so fed up and then just like ran up to the front and like just slammed her money down and just huff and puffed her way out of there. And then she got in the car and then she just like bursted out laughing because she realized the irony of how impatient she got while writing a book about having patience. So your post made me think of that, and again, I think it's one of those things that people need to realize that they should slow down, especially with those fear-based dogs that we were talking about, the sensitive dogs, that you really do need to move slow sometimes and take your time. And even if you only did 3 steps in an hour, it was 3 more steps than you did yesterday.
Yes.
Is there anything about that?
Incrementally for some dogs. I mean, you're not going to get, like, I look at Cheri and some of the, obviously she deals with feral dogs. So there's extreme fear involved there with their connection with humans. She's one of the most amazing trainers because she's a woman and she can do anything.
Yes. So,
I mean, obviously when you see a woman like that, you want to go watch her work, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And speaking of Cheri, and we were talking about women who may be hesitant or maybe having some problems or resistance trying to succeed in the dog training world. I know Cheri has a women's only workshop that she's done. And I believe you took part in that, right? I think I saw you in a picture.
No, actually, I did train the trainers, which was the 5-day shadow. It was different. I'm working up to that one because I have struggles with vulnerability, and in at least the way I see it, she gets really personal, which is what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Helping women to have a better relationship with their dog. And if you're going to take feedback from anyone, let it be Cheri.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like anytime she gives feedback, her intention is love. I'm going to tell you my favorite quote. Okay.
Okay. Please do.
My favorite quote on the planet. And this is how I like to work with my clients. And that is, the truth without love isn't the truth. So your intention what is your intention for telling this client this or that? Right.
Right.
If you have an irritated, feeling, if you have a frustrated feeling, if you just think your client's stupid or all this negative stuff, which I hear sometimes, I like to go back to that. What is my intention? Because people can feel it, right? So when I'm with Cheri and she's giving me feedback, I can feel what the intention is. And it's for my growth. It's because she cares. So that's the kind of feedback and constructive criticism that I want to accept, is when someone has my best interest at heart. Right.
Absolutely.
So I want to be that way too. So for women who, I mean, I don't want to say too much about the comparisons between TCW and Lucas, Agnew, or working with Cheri, but I'm going to say that women who struggle with difficult emotions, I would go to Cheri. If you're not already confident, if you haven't reached this point of healing and perfect confidence, I wouldn't go there first. I wouldn't do TCW first. I would go to Cheri because, actually I met some of the best trainers at TCW, by the way, you know that.
Yeah.
So connections are amazing, but I do think that there's discomfort with women's extreme emotions. That's how I view it. And that's what I experienced. So for me to go and actually go somewhere where you have this woman who is literally taking every case and doing some straight up amazing rescue work. Every week she has another dog she's pulling from a shelter. So I want to support that monetarily, number one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do
that first and then do TCW one,
Kristina, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you being candid and sharing your experiences, not only starting up, but as a trainer that's still learning. I also wanted to thank you for the constant words of encouragement as far as my own training growth and rescue endeavors, because you send me messages all the time, and it really does make a difference, because as you know, sometimes our confidence can take little hits, and then it ends up being a lot, and then it's like, okay, what am I doing? Do I even know what I'm doing? And then words of encouragement like that will come in just when you need it. So I wanted to thank you for that as well. I like to end my interviews by asking 3 questions. I don't know if you've heard them because now the podcast is out, so it's kind of funny. But if you could answer them in a bit of a rapid fire kind of way.
Okay.
That's kind of how it works. Okay. All right. What's the one thing you wish dog trainers would understand?
Low stim is okay. Low stim work is a thing. You can use low stim as part of layering. So many obedience trainers don't understand layering and they freak out over low stim. And I'm
agree.
like, why is it so hard for people in the community to understand working low instead of just lighting the dog up, as Cheri says, when they do something that you don't want them to do? Like, teach them what to do first. It's very simple. And you use it as a tap on the shoulder. I wish people would take time in the punishment-based community, obedience community, to understand low stim and behavioral stuff, because they don't want you. They do not like it when you say there's a difference between training and behavioral, but there absolutely is.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. My next question is what's the one thing you wish dog owners would understand?
Exactly what we discussed. Emotional dumping.
Yep.
Emotional dumping it's 80 to 90% of the time going to mess your dog up just in some way.
And here's my favorite question. It's a chance to kind of pay it forward a little bit. Are there any unsung heroes out there? Anybody that you think deserves a little bit more recognition in the dog world? Maybe somebody that is listening to this, they can Google that person or look them up on Instagram, or perhaps I should invite them on as a guest on the show.
That's an interesting question. The first thing that popped in my head when you said that are all the men who have been released from prison program that are part of Positive Change.
Oh, wow.
That program is amazing. It touches my heart in ways that I can't explain. I want to be part of it, but it's really hard to be part of it if you live out of state. But if you can get any of these incredible trainers who have been released and are working dogs now onto this podcast, that would be amazing.
That is an awesome suggestion. That might be one of the probably the most awesome suggestion and answer I've gotten to that question. Thank you, Christina. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
I do have we both know Robert Villanueva, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Cheri's volunteer trainer for her workshops. Yeah. I believe he still works with the prison system doing the program. And I have invited him to be on this show. So it's something I'm working on.
I will be curious if you get him.
Yeah, I will.
Robert is one of the most low key trainers who is legit amazing.
Yeah, he is awesome. He's great. And I
watched him do things like I'll say really quick.
Yeah.
I was at his place and he was doing chicken feeding, if you know what that is. It's where you spread kibble out and all the dogs come and eat. And then he has a resource guarding dog, like a dog with a serious resource guarding issue.
Wow. I have not heard of this technique.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I would love to watch
crazy.
that. I would love to watch it. How many dogs were involved in that?
Okay. But it gets more interesting because he's showing me how he does this exercise, right? And he has so many French bulldogs. And so everybody's like chicken feeding. And then all of a sudden one of his gates gets moved and a bunch more dogs come in, which was unexpected, right? Which the normal person would be like, oh my gosh. Oh, all Robert does is his eyes get a little wide and he's so calm and he just dealt with it. And I was standing there like, this is absolutely incredible.
Oh my God.
There were so many dogs. I would not be surprised if there were like 20 dogs right there, just chicken feeding with a resource guarding dog there having to wait.
Christina, I'm writing this down right now. Yeah. Chicken feeding, just so I can remember to bring this up to Robert when I interview him. And I am going to.
Robert is like, don't get it twisted. That guy, he's really good.
I'm going to say this. Kristina told me, and then I have this story. Kristina, thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it. You are always a delight to talk to, and I really think that this was valuable, and that there are a lot of people who can learn from everything that you've talked about today. So again, thank you very much for being on with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Kristina, for being on the show. If you'd like to follow her on Instagram, you can do so at KrisBars.
Thank you for listening to the Candace's Pack Dog Rescue Show. For news updates and training tips, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at Candace's Pack Dog Rescue. If you would like to support the rescue, please visit our website at cpackdogrescue.org. For questions and comments, you can contact us at cpackdogrescue@gmail.com. And if you like the show, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your podcast app.